A man without a tribe. Tony Brooks grew up feeling he'd been caught between two worlds. His father's side is deeply connected to the Great Grizzlies, an influential African-American organization, while his mother's Sicilian relatives belong to a tight-knit group called the Golden Family. Because Tony is mixed, neither side fully accepts him. He's always treated like an outsider looking in. Tony's life changes suddenly when his mother, an executive chef, dies unexpectedly from pneumonia. She leaves Tony valuable property worth about $5 million. Instead of keeping it, Tony sells the property for its market value and suddenly finds himself wealthy but emotionally lost. During this time, Tony meets Vicki S, a woman who shares a similar experience. Vicki is half Japanese and half Latina, and she also struggles with being accepted by either side of her background. The two quickly bond over their shared feelings of isolation. What starts as friendship turns into a passionate romance, and Tony falls deeply in love with her. For the first time in his life, Tony feels like he finally belongs somewhere. Tony's life takes a complete and complicated turn when unexpectedly reconnects with Isabella, his high school girlfriend. Isabella is now a single mother raising a child on her own. Seeing Tony again sparks old emotions and unresolved feelings. In a moment of weakness and nostalgia, Tony cheats on Vicki with Isabella. What Tony sees as a mistake becomes something much bigger in Isabella's eyes. She believes Tony should be with her and help raise the kid. Determined to break Tony and Vicki apart, Isabella sends a message directly to Vicki, revealing the affair. Vicki is devastated and furious. She confronts Tony, and their once strong relationship begins to fall apart. Desperate to save things with Vicki, Tony looks for guidance. I'm sorry about that, people. Tony looks for guidance. Tony looks for guidance and protection from the people who never truly accepted him. He first goes to the Golden family. Although they have always kept Tony at a distance because of their traditional beliefs, they still show him some compassion. They advise him to protect himself legally and help him get a lawyer to deal with the growing chaos around his life. Still obsessed with fixing his relationship, Tony then turns to the Great Grizzlies. His father, Tyrone, leads the organization but refuses to get involved in personal matters. However, the situation becomes complicated because Tony is still his son. When Tyrone hears about Isabella causing problems, he coldly states there are two outcomes for her: the hospital or the graveyard. Tony claims he just wants Isabella out of his life, but he begins making decisions fueled by fear and desperation. Tony becomes convinced that Isabella will never leave him alone, and that she will permanently destroy his relationship with Vicki. But believing Vicki is the love of his life, he makes a terrible decision. He asks the Great Grizzlies to eliminate Isabella. The organization reluctantly agrees, but they warn Tony that if he ever talks about it, he will go down with them. The job is carried out, but the crime quickly attracts police attention. Investigators find DNA evidence that leads them directly to the members of the Great Grizzlies. The men involved panic and begin cooperating with police because they never wanted to commit the murder in the first place. When Tyrone learns about the betrayal through legal paperwork, he orders retaliation inside the jail against a corrupt prison guard. The witnesses are killed before they can testify. Police believe Tony ordered these jailhouse killings to silence the witnesses. They arrest him for murder for hire, building a case that portrays Tony as the mastermind behind multiple deaths. Tony enters the brutal reality of jail for the first time. Inside, he quickly learns that innocence and guilt matter less than survival. Whether he likes it or not, he must align himself with people who share his background just to stay safe. 9 months into the sentencing, Tony gets into another fight with an inmate. The altercation spirals out of control, and the man dies from his injuries. Tony now faces even more serious consequences. Meanwhile, life continues outside the prison walls. Vicki slowly begins moving on with her life. She meets another man, and they start building a healthier relationship. Eventually, she decides to completely cut ties with Tony and tells him the relationship is over. The news crushes him. Tony realizes the choices he made to keep Vicki actually destroyed everything he cared about. Alone, disgraced, and facing the rest of his life behind bars, Tony loses hope. In the end, Tony takes his own life in prison. The end.